This is the Global News on Atlantic Television Network. First, the headlines. Court grants substituted service for Amehule-led lawmakers. Court grants Adeleke's appointee 50 million naira bail over terrorism. FG begins disbursement of 200 billion naira palliative loans. AFDB plans framework on shareholders' cash. Georgian lawmakers exchange blows in parliament. Pamia disagree with Chelsea over penalty. Davido claims big Afrobeat star comparison with Wizkid. Others. Now the news and details. My name is Angel. Welcome. A Federal High Court in Port Harcourt has approved a motion by constituents of the Martin Amehule-led River State House of Assembly members for substituted service. Presiding Judge Justice Emmanuel Obile, who granted the order due to challenges in serving the lawmakers with court documents, said the constituents are seeking clarification on Section 109, subsection 1 of the 1999 Constitution regarding lawmakers' defection from their original political party. They are also requesting that the Independent National Electoral Commission to organize fresh elections for the affected state constituency seat, and Justice Obile had adjourned the matter to May 16th for further proceedings. This is coming after 27 lawmakers of the River State Assembly defected from the People's Democratic Party (PDP) to the All Progressive Congress (APC), citing a crisis within the national leadership of the PDP, while their defection followed the crisis that rocked the political space in the state, following the burning of the hallowed chamber of the State Assembly and the subsequent proceedings against Governor Sim Fubara. The political crisis in River State is a result of the rift between Governor Fubara and the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory (FCT). Families and friends of the traditional ruler Ewu Kingdom in Delta State, Clement Ikolo, are demanding his whereabouts after a month since he was detained by the Nigerian military. A statement by the Secretary of the Ewu Urobo Traditional Council of Chiefs, Albizo Henry, said despite efforts by the monarch's lawyer to have the family members have access to him was not granted. His lawyer, Amma Etuwewe, son, who made a written request dated April 2nd, 2024, for access to see his client with a family member, said no access has been granted to date. This is coming after the monarch had turned himself into the police and was handed over to the military hours after he was declared wanted by the defense headquarters in connection to the killing of 17 military personnel in Okwama community of the state. And the monarch have encountered stiff opposition from the other interested persons who claimed they were entitled to contest for the kingship. Few weeks before the handover of staff of office ceremony, the monarch attempted to enter the headquarters of the kingdom Ewu Oto to meet with his people, but the opposition figures got wind of the information and immediately mobilized their supporters armed with various weapons to barricade access to the kingdom. Andrew M. Wanta, council says impeached Deputy Governor of Edo State, Philip Shaibu, is being persuaded to drop his petition against the Chief Judge of the state, Justice Daniel Okumboa. Mwanta said in view of the appeals coming from several quarters, Shaibu was weighing his options. Other than that, Shaibu, through Mwanta, had last week written to the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Olukayode Ariwola, requesting a complaint form to file a formal petition against the Chief Judge of Edo State, Justice Daniel Okumboa. On the request of the Edo State House, the Chief Judge had set up a 7-man panel to probe alleged perjury and leaking of the government secrets against Shaibu, and headed by retired Justice S.A. Omonowa, concluded the probe on Friday, April 5, and sent its report to the Assembly on Monday, April 8. The Assembly, after considering the report of the probe, declared Shaibu guilty of the offense of leaking the state government secrets and subsequently impeached him. Hours later, Governor Godwin Obaseki replaced Shaibu with Omobayo Godwin. Police in Enugu State have arrested a 24-year-old suspect, Madwa Buchi Okonkwo, for allegedly possessing and transacting in counterfeit Naira notes. The Command's Police Public Relations Officer, DSP Daniel Ndukwe, who disclosed this in a statement posted on the Command's official X-handle, said, police operatives serving in Abakaliki Road, Police Division of the Enugu State Command, with the support of law-abiding citizens on April 10, 2024, arrested one Madwa Buchi Okonkwo of Mpologu, Emene, Enugu, at the old IMT bus stop, Abakaliki Road in Enugu. The suspected was arrested after he boarded a minibus and gave the driver one of the counterfeited notes, and while he scrutinized and observed that the currency was fake, thereby raising an alarm that led to the suspect's arrest. The statement also said during interrogation, the suspect confessed to paying 25,000 naira for counterfeit notes with a face value of 50,000 naira. International Press Center has condemned the recent harassment of its executive director, Lanre Arogundade, by some senior officials of the Department of State Services at the Molitala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos. A statement signed by the Press Freedom Officer at IPC, Melody Akinjia, said the persistent harassment of Lanre Arogundade by the SSS constitutes systematic abuse of power and violation of his right, and called on the Director General of the DSSS, particularly his men at the airport, to stop tormenting Arogundade. According to the statement, the DSSS officials accosted the activist while he was boarding a flight to attend conferences in Berlin, Germany on April 11. Other than that, Arogundade is a renowned journalist, advocate for social justice and democracy, former chairman of the Lagos State Council of the Nigerian Union of Journalists, and the former president of the National Association of Nigerian Students. Some senior DSSS officers claim that his name was still popping up on their watch list. The organization said the persistent harassment of the Arogundade was a violation of his rights to freedom of movement while undermining basic democratic principles. Federal High Court sitting in Oshobo, Osun State, has granted one Olalekon Oyeyemi, an appointee of the state governor, Ademola Adeleke, 50 million naira bail application with two sureties in like sum. The sureties, the judge said, must include a traditional ruler in the state and a level 17 civil servant or member of the National Assembly and a second surety. This is coming after Oyeyemi, also known as Emir, who is a seventh member of Osun Park Management System, with others at large, is a standing trial on a 10 counts that included conspiracy, malicious damage, unlawful killing, and acts of terrorism, had pleaded not guilty, while his counsel, Edmond Biriomini, filed a formal bail application for his release. A penultimate sitting on the matter, held on Thursday, March 19th, the presiding judge and Ayo Emmanuel joined ruling on the bail application and counter-application for Oyeyemi, popularly known as Emir, and told the parties that the date for the next sitting will be communicated to them. The judge subsequently returned Oyeyemi to Ilisha Correctional Center, where he has been held since his first appearance in court on February 1. Analysts say celebrating with rifles, live ammunition is illegal in Oyo State, involving individuals identified as the Yoruba Nation, following activities of agitators who stormed the state secretariat with rifles in celebration. Speaking on Atlantic Blowout, a public affairs analyst, Andy Motive, said,
engaged with the Nigerian military, and they were shooting at the Nigerian military braids, and you are going with guns. What we saw, the video that went viral on social media we saw that they engaged.
This is coming after no fewer than 3 people suspected to be part of the Yoruba Nation agitators allegedly invaded the Oyo State Secretariat, Agodi, Ibadan, and many were feared killed in a clash with security operatives. Ekiti State government has appointed 23 justices of peace to enhance justice delivery at a grassroots level and deepen peaceful coexistence in the state. Speaking in Ado Ekiti at the one-day workshop organized for the 23 justices of the peace, the Attorney General and the Commissioner leading to the Supreme Court. The group accused the CJN of appointing his son, Olukayode Ariwola Jr., as the judge of the Federal High Court and also his daughter fed undue advantages on his family.
I will discharge my duties to the best of my ability.
Faithfully and in accordance with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the law.
Yeah, and the law.
And always in the interest of the sovereignty.
And always in the interest of the sovereignty.
Integrity. Solidarity. Well-being. And prosperity of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the Federal Capital Territory Administration.
Well-being and prosperity of the...
Preserve the fundamental objectives.
That I will strive to preserve the fundamental objectives
and directive principles of Nigeria
contained in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
That I will not allow my personal interest to influence my official conduct.
That I will not allow my personal
national development, particularly as regards to the Federal Capital Territory. It is a business to coordinate and liaise as the minister.
He has advised President Bola Tinubu to drop any of his appointees who failed to deliver on his mandate. Erufai, who discloses in Maiduguri, urged the president to also explore the possibility of amending some of his policies that were not yielding the desired result. He also called for prayers and support from the citizens for the administration in its quest to turn things around. Aisha Galadima, a political ally of former governor of Kaduna State, Malam Nasir Erufai, who was arrested by the Department of State Services, has alleged that she was harassed and beaten while in custody. This is coming after Governor Sani recently alleged that Erufai left behind a huge debt burden for his administration. The All Progressive Congress chieftain made the allegation after her release from the custody of the security agency after she was arrested in Kaduna over a post on her Facebook page criticizing the state governor, Uba Sani. According to her, the DSSS accused her of making a post against Kaduna State Governor Uba Sani in February, while Aisha Galadima said her arrest is connected to the face-off between Erufai and his successor, Governor Uba Sani. Operation Safe Haven, a special military task force maintaining peace, has denied allegation that its soldiers shot innocent citizens in the recent attacks on the Bokos local government area of Plateau State. The media officer of the operation, Major Samson Zakom, denied the allegation in a statement in Jos. This is coming after the coalition of Bokos ethnic youth nationalities had alleged that soldiers shot civilians and compounded the vulnerability of residents of the locality and called for the removal of the commander of OPSH step-up headquarters too in Bokos. Other than that, the security agencies failed to quell the recent killings in some communities of the council. However, the media officer described the allegations as unfounded, adding that it was aimed at tarnishing the image of the military and other security agencies in the state. In northern states under the aegis of the concerned NNPP stakeholders have passed a vote of no confidence on Governor Abba Yusuf of Kano State. A communique issued jointly signed by the president of the group, Honorable Atahiru Musa, Secretary Honorable Simon Palm, and others claimed that they have been left a bit disappointed with the path the beloved party is taking, especially in Kano State. Other than that, NNPP has failed in Kano State, while the party's leadership in the state is presently worse than the government at the center and the previous administration. This is also coming after the governor and his predecessor, currently the national chairman of the All Progressive Congress, Umar Ganduje, have been in a loggerheads, while the state government has vowed to prosecute Ganduje over alleged financial misappropriation while he was in office as governor of the state. Major opposition party in Jigawa State, People's Democratic Party, has distanced itself from the Inter-Party Advisory Council decision, requesting an extension of the local government council election by 1 year. PDP chairman in the Duse local government area, Alhaji Saidu Bawa, who disclosed this while reacting to the EPAC decision, said the EPAC decision was not a popular idea, but a decision of a few individuals. Other than that, the EPAC had called for an amendment to the state's electoral law, and some of the beneficiaries of Janghun local government area said the project was aimed at expanding access to livelihood support and food security services. He also said the committee was constituted by Governor Umar Namadi to develop an equitable, transparent and accessible process of beneficiary targeting, selection and implementation monitoring. Other than that, in pursuit of fairness and accuracy, they adopted a rigorous and scientific methodology for beneficiary and community selection. It said the committee used multiple approaches in the selection of communities and beneficiaries, consistent with approved guidelines of the NG Cares project. Other than that, 4,220 beneficiaries were selected from poor and vulnerable, hard-to-reach areas with little or no government presence for agricultural input and access intervention. Umar therefore urged the beneficiaries to utilize the support wisely, fostering not just personal growth, but also contributing to the overall development of their communities, and commended the Jigawa state government for their project and promised to utilize their support judiciously. Analysts have faulted the Nigerian justice system for its inability to uphold the discharge of its legal responsibility, especially concerning issues of urgent and immediate response. Speaking on Atlantic Society Watch, a public affairs analyst, Obarido Thompson, said the judicial system in the country is yet to be developed compared to the other societies of the world.
We have a justice system that is still crude, very primitive. You know, we have all kinds of atrocities going on in this country, and people just turn a blind eye to it. Just like you analyzed, don't we have a commissioner of health in that state, in Borno State? Dr. James Korinjo has been kept in detention, and that's illegal, because they did not allow him to have bail. No matter the issue, bail is an option. He didn't murder someone. He only did what we call whistleblowing.
Meanwhile, Obarido Thompson has tasked the government on the restructuring of the Nigerian justice system.
It is this life of impunity, this attitude of impunity in our country. You know, the justice system is still criminal and still crude, We shouldn't be doing this. We need to refine our system where if somebody does what you think is wrong, he's treated purely as a suspect. He's already been treated as a criminal.
Well, we want to sound it again that Dr. James Okonjo is in detention, and now that the family has called on the federal government and also the Medical Practitioners Association to come into this matter, we hope that something will be done about this. We'll
please,
hear
please,
the right results
let them
after
set
now.
him free.
And again, the hospital need to be questioned because he is in a detention because he tried to reveal some fraudulent activities, not because he was doing this for selfish interest. He was actually trying to fight for the community people. So we hope that something will be done about this. And the next story is from Gombe State. 6 family members of
Coming after Abubakar A statement by the spokesperson for the Zamfara State Police Command, Yaziz Abubakar, assured that the command would ensure the rescue of all kidnapped citizens, students, and it had deployed an additional tactical team for search and rescue operations. Earlier, the National Coordinator, Major General Adamu Laka, retired, said search and rescue operations conducted by security agencies led to the release of the students and the 3 batches and the abductees. We are subsequently releasing the 3 batches after 207 days in captivity. A component of Operation Hadarin Kai has executed a precision airstrike on the hideout of ISWAP terrorists, killing over 30 of their fighters within Kularam village along the shores of Lake Chad. A statement signed by the Director of Public Relations and Information, Nigerian Air Force in Abuja, AVM Edward Bakwet, said the airstrikes conducted on April 13 were a decisive blow against terrorism in the northeast. He also said the operation yielded significant success as a battle damage killed. He also said numerous vehicles, motorcycles, and logistical assets were destroyed, severely hampering the terrorist operational capability, stressing that the area bombardment effectively obliterated a key facility within the Kolaram enclave, which served as a hub for the terrorist food processing activities, including grinding machines. NAF said the success of the airstrikes underscores NAF's commitment to eradicating terrorism and ensuring the safety and security of Nigerian citizens. Senate President Godswill Akpabio has called on the police, particularly the Inspector General Kayode Asak, had made bad officers from the force and pledged full cooperation and support of the National Assembly for better policing of Nigeria. Akpabio, who disclosed this at the maiden edition of the Nigerian Police Awards and Commendations ceremony in Abuja, commended the Inspector General of the Police, Kayode, and the entire leadership of the Nigerian Police Force for organizing the event and urged them to use the occasion to celebrate the achievements of the Nigerian Police Force and to reiterate the commitment to working together for a safer and more secured Nigeria. He said the agenda focuses on internal ethical regeneration, restoration of professional standards, and the enhancement of the anti-corruption drive. Other than that, the ever-evolving landscape of crime and the increase in sophistication of criminal gangs pose significant obstacles. Akpabio said the police force needs the support of all stakeholders in the nation for effective service delivery to overcome the challenges and build a stronger and more effective police force. Chief of Army Staff Lieutenant General Torad Labaja has directed field commanders and troops to be adaptive and embrace innovation to ensure adversaries of the country are brought to their knees. He said the nation was in more volatile and complex period than before, urging the commanders to be innovative and also employ them to restore peace and stability in areas experiencing security challenges across the nation. Speaking during the opening ceremony of the Chief of Army Staff Conference, Labaja said that troops and the commanders must remain committed to their constitutional mandates of preservation of the national territorial integrity, safeguarding the lives and properties of loyal citizens, and upholding the principles of justice and equity, and must be ready to take up more non-traditional military responsibilities. Labaja urged the troops and commanders to enhance their intelligence gathering and respect human rights while going about their duties. The Army Chief also said he has directed the Managing Director of Post Service Housing Development Limited to set aside 5% of the affordable home ownership option for all soldiers scheme in each estate for allocation to the wounded and the disabled soldiers. Other than that, the program is aimed at alleviating the hardship soldiers face in securing personal accommodation for post-service life. Law graduate of National Open University of Nigeria, Vera Anyim, who was accused of lying while giving testimony at the Dunamis International Gospel Center, Abuja, said she bears no grudge against the church. This followed the controversy that trailed the treatment that was meted out to her by the church senior pastor, Dr. Paula Nature, last Sunday, when the pastor questioned the credibility of the woman's testimony while he chided her on how she spoke. And the action, however, generated a flurry of reactions as citizens demanded an apology from the cleric. But Anyim, in his post on her Facebook page that she said had put the situation behind her after meeting Eneche and his wife, Becky. The church, in a statement, said it reached out to Anyim over the issue, while it explained that concerns arose during her testimony at the Glory Dome on April 14, 2024, regarding her language proficiency and the clarity of her academic credentials. The statement also said the senior pastor's actions stemmed from a commitment to upholding standards of excellence and integrity within the church community. You are watching the Atlantic Television Global News. When we come back from this break, we continue the rest of the story. Back, Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment says it has begun disbursement of the Presidential Conditional Grant Scheme to verified applicants after an exhaustive selection process. The government, through the Bank of Industry, has said it will be disbursed in 3 categories of funding totaling 200 billion naira to support manufacturers and businesses across the country. In a progressive report posted on the Trade Minister's official X handle, the Rees-Aniete said an unspecified number of beneficiaries have received their grants. Other than that, by Friday, April 19, another significant disbursement will be made to a substantial number of verified applicants. This is coming more than 8 months after President Bola Tinubu announced a grant for manufacturers and small businesses, and 2 weeks after applicants were directed to submit their national identification numbers as part of the requirement to obtain the grant, a mark to cushion the effect that recent economic reforms have had on businesses in the country. While the president said he was determined to strengthen the manufacturing sector, increase its capacity to expand and create good-paying jobs. In the address, the president said he was determined to strengthen the manufacturing sector, increase its capacity to expand and create good-paying jobs. House of Reps is planning to multifaceted approach towards addressing the issue of wildlife trade, stressing that stricter enforcement, community engagement and international cooperation is crucial in combating the menace. The Deputy Chairman, House Committee on Environment, Honorable Teza Ubo, discloses at a one-day policy dialogue with stakeholders on the Endangered Species Conservation and Protection Bill 2024. Ubo said the situation in Nigeria has evolved into an alarming status in the global hub of illegal wildlife trade in recent years, and called for the need to act swiftly in reversing its negative trend. The Minister of Environment, Balarabe Lawal, who was represented by the Deputy Director, Department of Forestry, Federal Ministry of Environment, Razak Adola, in his submission observed that outdated laws and legislations remain part of the challenges confronting sustainable forest and biodiversity conservation in the country.
strengthening of the policy, legal, and institutional framework is pivotal to our national approach to tackling biodiversity loss, environmental challenges, and climate change. The increasing population, coupled with transboundary crime, particularly wildlife and forest crime, has continued to mount pressure on natural resources. Although Nigeria is being dubbed as a transit point for wildlife trafficking, we are not losing sight of such crime being perpetrated domestically. The various subsisting laws and legislations have proven to be inadequate in addressing the problem, and this explains why we are here today, to subject the draft bill on the Endangered Species Conservation and Protection Bill 2024 to policy dialogue, thereby giving opportunity for stakeholders to contribute and make the document impeccable as much as possible.
This bill strengthens the legal framework for Nigeria in combating wildlife trafficking. It models the provisions of existing guidelines and establishes more stringent penalties for offenders, thereby serving as sufficient deterrence to intending offenders. The aim is to dismantle the wildlife trafficking networks and disrupt their supply chains, which will significantly deter the trade and protect endangered species and their habitats. Furthermore, the bill also promotes inclusivity between stakeholders and the community. There is a need for adequate provisions for community engagement, public awareness campaigns, and local empowerment initiatives. By promoting education, raising awareness, and empowering local communities, public awareness campaigns, and local initiatives, and by promoting education, raising awareness, and becoming guidance in natural resources, we can build a sustainable future where wildlife is protected and flourishes.
As well as with fruitful bilateral ministers, including with the Minister of State for Environment, and collaboration on lots of key areas, including agriculture, health, and energy.
In his remarks, the country representative of the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, Oliver Stolpe, called for further review on the legislation, stressing that the current legal framework is deficient as the penalties and the laws do not accord wildlife crime the seriousness that it deserves.
An important milestone in Nigeria's efforts to combat wildlife and forest crime that we are gathered at this policy dialogue to review the Endangered Species Conservation and Protection Bill, which will significantly improve the legal framework. This aligns with the National Strategy to Combat Wildlife and Forest Crime, which was launched in 2022, and most recently with the findings and recommendations of the International Consortium for Combating Wildlife Crime Analytical Toolkit Assessment for Nigeria. One of the key findings of that assessment was that the weaknesses in the legal framework and the need to increase the penalties for wildlife crimes, and there was a specific recommendation of support for the enactment of this very bill that we have come here together to discuss today. Further, the provisions of the bill align with UNODC's guide on drafting legislation to combat wildlife crime. UNODC is particularly pleased to see the following elements in the bill. First and foremost, the increased penalties of up to 10 years imprisonment depending on the type of the offense, meeting now the threshold of serious offenses definition in the UN Transnational Organized Crime Convention.
The bill, when passed into law, is expected to accelerate progress in the fight against wildlife and forest life, as well as the protection and conservation of iconic spiders, especially the endangered species. Now we are moving on to the business news. Breakthrough agreement to provide loss and damage funding for vulnerable countries which causes climate disasters has been successful, while Nigeria and other developing countries expect that COP28 must deliver on the operationalization of loss and damage funding. National Council on Climate Change disclosed this at the one-day national workshop to dialogue the outcomes of 28th section of the Conference of Parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, as well as proffer solutions to the climate issues in Nigeria.
An important milestone in Nigeria's efforts to combat wildlife and forest crime that we are gathered at this policy dialogue to review the Endangered Species Conservation and Protection Bill, which will significantly improve the legal framework. This aligns with the National Strategy to Combat Wildlife and Forest Crime, which was launched in 2022, and most recently with the findings and recommendations of the International Consortium for Combating Wildlife Crime Analytical Toolkit Assessment for Nigeria. One of the key findings of that assessment was that the weaknesses in the legal framework and the need to increase the penalties for wildlife crimes, and there was a specific recommendation of support for the enactment of this very bill that we have come here together to discuss today. Further, the provisions of the bill align with UNODC's guide on drafting legislation to combat wildlife crime. UNODC is particularly pleased to see the following elements in the bill. First and foremost, the increased penalties of up to 10 years imprisonment depending on the type of the offense, meeting now the threshold of serious offenses definition in the UN Transnational Organized Crime Convention.
According to the Secretary General of the Federation, Dr. George Akume, was represented by the Permanent Secretary General Service Office, Dr. Nnamdi Morris. The federal government is committed to climate change leadership endeavor, translating words to actions and mobilization of climate finance.
Nigeria exemplified the leadership of the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's led administration and commitment to the net zero goal, achieving the Paris Agreement through its several memorandum of understanding. However, commitment alone is not sufficient. We must translate words into action, aspirations into tangible outcomes. At the heart of this endeavor lies the mobilization of climate finance. According to Nigeria's revised NDC, an estimated total of $177 million in investments up to 2030 to attain the Paris Accord commitments based on assessments in several sectors was projected. It seems important to move the conversation away from the amount of capital needed to a discussion around what the key elements need to be in place to build a just transition ecosystem that can ensure investors can make the right decision,
The Honorable Minister of Environment, Balarabe Abbas, always said his ministry is determined to tackle the essential threat caused by climate change. While in his opening remarks, the Director General, National Council on Climate Change, Dr. Salisu Dahiru, gave the breakdown of Nigeria participation of the COP28 and the aim of the workshop.
This conference marks a milestone in our global effort to address climate change. It provides a platform for dialogue, negotiation, consensus building among nations. COP28 reaffirmed our collective determination to tackle the essential threat caused by climate change, which have been clearly itemized by most of the speakers here, particularly the issue raised by the British Commission on the issue of this year's summit. It's quite unprecedented.
Our participation of COP through statements, negotiations, and other engagements reaffirm the need for strengthening collective climate change action across the three pillars of the UNFCCC on the area of adaptation, in the area of finance and also in the area of adaptation. As an oil-producing and developing country, the agreement largely during COP28 posed the threat called for the need for a strategic review of all our national action and climate goals, which is unpacking the outcomes of COP28 is a new innovative approach that Nigeria has taken. In the past, we seek to facilitate active participation in this very important event, and we are counting on all of us present here to give in their best. The idea behind this
African Development Bank says it is planning its legal work framework processes and governance for a call on the callable capital by the institution. Callable capital refers to the portion of the bank's capital that is subscribed by shareholders but not immediately paid, which represents a commitment to make additional capital available to the institution in the very unlikely event that it cannot meet its obligations on its debt or guarantees. The report presents the circumstances leading to a call on callable capital and the processes for such a call being made by the bank and met by shareholders. And the exercise follows the recommendations made by the G20 following an independent expert review of MDB capital adequacy frameworks and agencies with key information that could find useful in the assessment of the value of callable capital. Similar reports are also published by the Asian Development Bank, the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, the Inter-American Development Bank, and the World Bank. The result of a reverse stress and testing exercise conducted on the African Development Bank, assessing the probability of a scenario materializing where the bank would need to call on its callable capital. And now we are moving into the international tidbits. Exchange of bloc has erupted in Georgia's parliament over a controversial foreign influence law. The massive brawl occurred inside the Georgian parliament during heated discussions over a law deemed Russian-esque by critics. The legislation under debate will compel media and non-commercial organizations to register as being under foreign influence if they receive more than 20% of their budget from abroad, while hundreds of protesters have been relaying outside the parliament while it discussed the law in the Judicial Committee. Muka, the head of the Georgian Dream Party faction, was punched in the face while giving a speech by MP Alexander, while Alexander accused MP of being pro-Russian. Its critics also said that passing the law would obstruct Georgians' aims of joining the European Union, which issued the country's long-desired candidate status last year. While the proposed law is similar to one that is governing Georgian Dream Party, was pressured to withdraw a year ago after last street protest. And now on the sports news, Chelsea star player Cole Palmer has disagreed on a penalty argument with his teammates Nicholas Jackson and Noni Madueke during their 6-0 win against Everton in the Premier League. Palmer scored the first 3 goals within 30 minutes, while Jackson netted the 4th in the 44th minute, and Chelsea then won a penalty kick in the second half. Although Palmer has been the Blues' regular penalty taker this season, an argument sparked between him, Jackson and Madueke over who would take the sport kick. Speaking about the incident after the game at Stamford Bridge, the 21-year-old England international said other players wanted to take it, which is understandable because it's 4-0, but I'm the penalty taker and I wanted to take, so in the end I took it. Now we are moving on to